What made this story one of the greatest military raids in history to rescue hostages in enemy territory against all odds? This is a story of how genius intelligence planning and logistical brilliance enabled the IDF and Mossad to execute a daring rescue mission to free over 200 hostages in Uganda, Africa. Before I proceed, kindly like and subscribe to show your appreciation. The daring and heroic raid on Entebbe were code-named Operation Thunderbolt, the 4th of July 1976. Please follow my video till the end to see why this event not only shocked but also earned the admiration of millions. On the 27th of June 1976, an Airbus 300 France Flight 139 took off from Tel Aviv, Israel, heading to Paris with 12 crew members and 246 predominantly Jewish passengers. No one expected this flight would turn out to be such a horrific event that shook the world to its core. The aircraft had a short layover in Athens, Greece, to board an extra 58 passengers. Shortly after takeoff at 12:30 p.m., the aircraft was seized by 4 hijackers, 2 Palestinians from the Popular Front for the Liberation of Palestine and 2 Germans affiliated with the German revolutionary cells, who had entered the flight in Athens. The hijackers rerouted the plane to Benghazi, Libya, where it remained on the ground for 7 hours to refuel. The aircraft then departed from Benghazi Airport and reached Entebbe Airport in Uganda at 3:15 p.m. on June 28, over 24 hours later than the initially scheduled departure, in a landlocked East African nation ruled by the brutal dictator Idi Amin. 3 more terrorists joined the other 4 terrorists at the airport of Entebbe. More than 100 Ugandan soldiers were sent to assist the hijackers once the flight touched down. The Ugandan leader Idi Amin's government backed the hijackers, and Amin, who was aware of the hijacking from the start, greeted them personally. Once they relocated all the hostages to an abandoned airport, the hijackers divided the Israelis and some non-Israeli Jews from the main group of passengers. The hijackers subsequently divided all Israelis and non-Israeli Jews from the larger crowd and compelled them into a distinct room. Prior to the commencing of the Israeli raid, the terrorists released 148 hostages who were not Israeli citizens to be released and airlifted to Paris Airport. 94 predominantly Jewish passengers, together with 12 crew members from Air France, were held hostage and faced death threats. The hijackers quickly presented their demands. They demanded the release of 53 Palestinian militants, with 40 previously incarcerated in Israel, and a payment of $5 million. They announced that should these demands not be fulfilled, they would start executing hostages from the 1st of July. Prime Minister Yitzhak Rabin and Defense Minister Shimon Peres ultimately decided to resist the hijackers' threats and initiate a military operation. On the 1st of July 1976, when the hijackers' deadline expired, the Israeli government proposed negotiations with the terrorists, merely to postpone the deadline to the 4th of July and allow their forces adequate time for preparation. Throughout this period, Mossad agents constructed a detailed understanding of the location of the hostages, the count of hijackers, and the participation of Ugandan forces, using data obtained from the freed hostages in Paris. They also collected data from Israeli construction companies that had constructed the airport terminal in Entebbe, where the hostages were detained. During the preparation of the military mission, Mossad even constructed a partial replica of the airport terminal with the help of the civilians who assisted in building the original. On the night of July 3, 1976, Operation Entebbe, known as Operation Thunderbolt, was launched. 4 Israeli C-130 Hercules aircraft, carrying approximately 100 IDF personnel, covertly landed at Entebbe Airport in Uganda. It was an audacious effort. It was a 4,000 km flight during night, and the pilots had to silence their radio communication as their flight path was mainly carried out over enemy territory. Taking off from Sharm el-Sheikh, the task force flew along the international flight path over the Red Sea, mostly flying at a height of no more than 30 meters (100 feet), to avoid radar detection. to avoid radar detection by Egyptian, Sudanese, and Saudi Arabian forces. Near the south outlet of the Red Sea, the C-130s turned south and crossed into Ethiopian territory, passing west of Djibouti. From there, they flew to a point northeast of Nairobi, Kenya. The Kenyan president allowed the Israeli aircraft to refuel on Jomo Kenyatta Airport before they headed for Entebbe. A black Mercedes resembling President Idi Amin's car and the Land Rovers that typically followed Amin's Mercedes were also part of the operation to distract the Ugandan soldiers on the airport. Camouflaged as a passenger aircraft, the first Hercules touched down at the airport near midnight. This was the most dangerous operation as the airstrip lighting, to guide the pilots landing on the runway at night, were off. 3 of the C-130 planes successfully landed in the dark, but the fourth one nearly hit a ditch on the side of the runway. When the aircraft touched down, the Land Rovers and the limousine filled with Israeli commandos exited the aircraft in a manner similar to Amin's motorcade. As they neared the terminal, 2 Ugandan guards, knowing that Idi Amin had just bought a white Mercedes, commanded the cars to halt. They were instantly killed with suppressed handguns. Following the touchdown of the first C-130, the other 3 Hercules aircraft, transporting Soviet-made armored vehicles to repel any Ugandan counterattack, also arrived. 2 Boeing aircraft joined the other cargo planes as a backup for medical assistance and surveillance intel to the ground command. Upon entering the terminal, the Israeli commandos instructed their hostages to remain low, using both Hebrew and English. A large shootout erupted, resulting in the deaths of all 4 terrorists, as well as several Ugandan army soldiers supporting them. At least 5 Israeli commandos sustained injuries, and the Israeli unit leader, Yonatan Netanyahu, was killed during the firefight. 3 hostages likewise perished in the gunfire. The Israeli troops subsequently eliminated 11 Soviet-made MiG-17 and MiG-21 jets of the Ugandan Air Force on the tarmac at the airport to hinder them from following the attacking unit. The captives were swiftly boarded onto the planes, which departed without delay for Israel. The hostages were then quickly loaded into the aircrafts, which took off immediately for Israel. The entire operation lasted for 53 minutes, of which the assault lasted only 30 minutes. During the mission in Uganda, Israel received assistance from neighboring countries to successfully execute this magnificent operation. Unplanned festivities erupted throughout Israel as word of the rescue circulated. Mossad and the IDF accomplished the unachievable. The Israeli military experienced 5 injuries and 1 death. Yonatan Netanyahu was the only Israeli casualty in Operation Entebbe, having commanded Sayeret Matkal during the mission. He was the elder brother of Benjamin Netanyahu, who would subsequently become Prime Minister of Israel. Idi Amin then ordered the Ugandan army to eliminate all Kenyans, who assisted Israel and residing in Uganda, to be killed, resulting in the deaths of 245 Kenyan Ugandans and the flight of approximately 3,000 Kenyans from Uganda. In 1976, Michel Bakos, the pilot of the Airbus, and the crew were awarded the National Order of the Legion of Honor, the highest decoration in France. The Israeli government also awarded them medals for heroism. Operation Thunderbolt is seen as one of the most successful raids in modern history to rescue its citizens.